gamers, Tom Seidner.
Nick Jones.
And today we're going to talk about some featured games. So Nick, what do you want to talk about first here?
So first let's say none of these are really new games.
Okay.
Which is a little different, but some games that I personally really enjoy, and I think a lot of other people will enjoy too, depending on what kinds of games they enjoy.
Okay.
Let's start off up here. We've got 1775 Rebellion. So I'm not typically a war gamer necessarily. I do enjoy Axis and Allies and a couple other games like that. But this sort of takes the historical war game and perfects it. Like, they've done a lot of fantastic things in this game. It's very historically accurate. It was actually BGG's best war game for a fairly long period of time. It may still be, actually. And it's another game that scales well from 2 to 4 players. And you're essentially taking part in the birth of America, and this is specifically the American Revolution part of it. Academy Games did a fantastic job with their Birth of America line. Made some really, really good games. And I particularly really like this one because you're essentially fighting for the East Coast. And the way they've divided up the map is really, really interesting. The areas of control work really well. You have tribes of Indians that can come in and help you on either side of the battle, whether you're playing as the revolutionists or the I can't think of words right now. The British. That's who it is. We fought the British in the American Revolution. Yep. So whether you're fighting for the Americans or the British, you can recruit these Indians and bring them into combat. They're not as effective as some of the regulars, obviously. And similarly, you've got the regulars for the Americans and the actual militia as well. And both play a little bit differently. They both have their advantages and different areas of control that they work really well in. There's definitely some advantages to having your army split and working together. But it's just a really fun game. It plays through really well. The card mechanic in it's fantastic. In that you may know everything that your opponent can do, but you don't know when they're going to do it. And similarly, you know everything you can do, but maybe you just don't have the card that you really need to get this situation figured out, and you've got to work through that process. So
looks like it's 2 to 4 players.
2 to 4, correct.
Looks like it might have some custom dice in there.
There are. So each different army type has a different die that they roll when they're in combat. And there's essentially when the result differences are essentially you're killing a troop, your troops are fleeing, or you can make a command decision to move your troops based on how the game's going. So, really interesting game, a lot of fun. It's one of those that's been around for a little while, but they've done a really, really good job with it. And if you haven't played it, it's worth taking a look at, finding somebody that has it, and checking it out at least.
How big's the board that's in here?
It's pretty average size for a board game, traditional board game. Probably 3x2. It's about coffee table size.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. I really enjoy the game.
Looks like a really good game. So,
Yeah.
all right, what do we got next here?
Next up, we're going to do Lords of Waterdeep, another not new game, but a kind of a classic in its own realm where you're participating in things in Waterdeep, a Dungeons and Dragons classic location as well.
Yeah, this is a game that I really enjoy. I play this game a lot. Like I said in another video, the guys who did Lords of Waterdeep also did Tyrants of the Underdark.
Yep.
They did a really good job in this game. I actually played this game at a game conference several years ago before it actually came out, where they were actually play testing it, and I loved the game. And then I had to wait like a year to play the game again, so that was kind of hard. But the one thing I really love about this game is it is a worker placement game. But in a lot of worker placement games, once you've played the first round, you're like, okay, I know all the locations and what I'm limited to. But in Lords of Waterdeep, one of the cool mechanics is you can buy locations and you can put them out on the board,
Yep.
and then you can control them. So when somebody uses your location, you actually get a benefit from it. And there's tons of locations to use. So in most worker placements, you get down to being the last person, and you're like, well, I have one place to put my guy right here. You know? In Lords of Waterdeep, there are so many locations on the board that there's, that you've always got someplace to put it. And then you also have to think about, who else am I helping by picking this location?
Well, this may be good for me. It's really good for you.
Right.
I don't know if I actually want this in play.
Right, and if that person's winning, you're like, I'm not going to put my guy on any of their locations because it's just benefiting them in the game. So I really like that. I like the theme, the Dungeons and Dragons theme. I like the quest. Now, the quests are a little simple. I mean, they say you're going on a quest, but really you're just set collecting.
You're setting guys off.
Yeah, you're collecting cubes, and then when you get enough cubes, you actually complete the quest. But the quest mechanic couldn't be too difficult, or it would have just bogged the game down. So I think they did a really good job of kind of making a simplified questing system. The worker placement is great, especially with the extra buildings that you can add to the board, and I really enjoy this game. There's also an expansion for this game. I think it's called Skullduggery or a Skull, something like that.
Something along those
Yeah,
lines.
and you can add that, so if you get this
Scoundrels
game...
of Skullport.
Yep, Scoundrels of Skullport. And if you get that and you get this game and you play it a lot and you get tired of that, you can add that in, and it adds a lot of different mechanics to the game that you can do. But really good game. Would have been on my top 10 list if it hadn't been for Tyrants of the Underdark knocking it out.
So one of the things I really like about this game is while it is a Dungeons & Dragons theme, it's not about questing.
Yep.
Questing is part of the game, but it's not the main thing. You're controlling Waterdeep. That's what you're trying to do, is control the village. Where when you're playing Dungeons & Dragons, you're questing. You're doing those things. Like, that's the main part of the game.
Yeah,
so it just changes it up a little bit.
Yeah, in this game you actually get a Lord of Waterdeep at the beginning of the game, and that person tells you what they want you to do, and that's how you kind of tailor your game. It's kind of like a secret objective that nobody else knows what you're trying to do, and so that's how you get a lot of points in the game, is by completing that secret objective within Waterdeep. So.
Oh yeah, ton of fun. So if you haven't played this one, also check it out.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Next up, we've got a couple of small packs here. These are the 7 Wonders Anniversary Packs. So there's one for leaders and one for cities. It essentially adds 15 new leaders or 15 new cities to your game. You obviously don't have to play with all of them. You can pick and choose the ones you like and play with those ones. But they add some interesting effects. We were talking about this a little before we started filming. I believe one of the effects in the leaders or cities, one of them, you essentially get rid of all of your negative tokens and you get like 2 victory points, which can be a huge swing late in the game. But there's some interesting effects, nothing really groundbreaking, but some good effects, a lot of fun to add to your basic game.
Yeah, now one thing to note is these do require the expansions to play. So you have to have the base game, 7 Wonders, and the Leaders expansion to use this one, or the Cities expansion to use that one.
Correct.
So these do not work with the actual base game alone. So.
Exactly. They're add-ons for the add-ons.
Add-ons for the add-ons.
The last game we're going to talk about today is another one that's not really new, but recently replayed it and just a ton of fun. And that's Ladies and Gentlemen. If you have a group of people that kind of enjoy getting into the theme of the game, Ladies and Gentlemen is a game about Victorian era fanciness. The entire game you essentially play with a partner, so you're playing on a team. It plays from 4 to 10 players.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah.
So one of your players on your team will be taking the place of the lady, and one of the players will be taking the place of the gentleman in the group. And you're essentially trying to get your lady to have the fanciest outfit at this ball at the end of the game. So each player essentially kind of plays their own mini game, where all of the ladies during the daytime period go shopping for fancy things. And they're trying to pick out the nicest thing they can find to bring home and have their husband buy for them. And similarly, all the gentlemen go off to the stock market and start making trades and earning money that way, that they can then bring home to buy all these things that their fancy lady wants them to buy.
That's pretty impressive.
And there's a really fun mechanic where you can actually put, like, if you can't quite afford something, you can put it on layaway and get it the next day. But it's really interesting. There's a specific rule in the game that the ladies are not allowed to touch the money, which just kind of adds into that fun of the game. And it's sort of fun to see the person you're playing with kind of slide some cards across the table and be like, I hope you can buy all these.
This would be a great game for like a singles party. Like you had a bunch of singles and you had to pair people up and they get to kind of interact with each other. That would be really fun. And this might be fun for some married couples too.
Okay. And the reverse of the gender role is a lot of fun too.
Oh yeah, that would be fun. Like the man play the woman. So that sounds really fun too. Yeah, this looks like a really fun game. I've not played this game, but this is a game that you've intrigued me that I might be interested in. My game group gets quite large at times, and we're always looking for games to play with large numbers of players. And nobody wants to split up and play separate games, you know. So this is one that I'm definitely going to be putting on my list, I think.
The other really interesting thing about this game is while it plays 4 to 10, you can play with odd players even though you're paired off. And essentially what you do is you have an extra lady involved who's essentially a courtesan that any of the gentlemen can buy stuff for.
Oh, okay.
And if she has the fanciest dress or the fanciest outfit at the end of the game, whoever bought her the most stuff also wins with her.
Oh, that's cool. So, yeah, this is very intriguing. This is a really cool looking game. So.
Yeah, so definitely check that one out as well. Again, not necessarily a new game. It's a couple years old now, but one that I think really flew under the radar for a long time. But still definitely worth checking out.
Okay, well, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed these featured games, and we'll try to bring you another featured games next week.
Yeah.
And until we see you guys again, happy gaming. This video was provided by The Lonely Gamer. To see more of our news, reviews, and videos, please visit us at lonelytabletopgamer.com.